because it's been repeated over and over again, not just in writing, but in placements of significant ruling capitals of the earth. If you get back to the heaven and earth mirror again, here's Washington, D.C., right at the margin here, 77 degrees, of where Leo and Virgo connect. Now, you always see in the celestial atlases, Virgo's holding a branch and a sheaf, and she's got wings. She's a woman and she's in heaven, so she has to have wings. This is from a grimoire that I got for Freemasonry, and you'll notice something really strange. Here she's got her branch and the Masonic G, a gimel, by the way, first part of number 3 in the Hebrew number system, and wings. So it's Virgo, and she's pointing to this interesting place here on the northern hemisphere in North America. It's actually where her limit is, at about 105 longitude to 75 longitude, right there. You'll notice that our capital, which venerates this deity, in a way, because the Gnostic version of knowledge itself is Isis, and there's something about the epic of from Virgo to the last point of Virgo, where Leo is in the autumn equinox. When we actually move into Leo, something transpires, a transformative point in the future. We have Maryland and Virginia wrapped around our capital city. Annapolis, Anna was the mother of Mary. It's the city of Mary. Or Anna's city, I guess. Now this is from Dendra, Egypt. It's explaining where the Dendra zodiac begins and ends. Here you have Leo and Virgo, still in the same sort of configuration, a staff instead of sheaves of grain, but you get the same sort of impression. And then here's the Sphinx, right underneath the whole zodiac train, to show you this is where the beginning and the ending is. And then right over the head, that's an Ouroboros. That is Leviathan. That is a small representation of the Milky Way. In fact, if you go to Egypt and you sit on the Sphinx, which is right here, and you look at the autumn equinox in 2012, what's interesting, since we only move a degree every 72 years in the precession, this is just as valid today. I mean, the smallest little points have changed there. But if you're citing the Sphinx, which perfectly points east, this is perfectly east. The margin between Virgo and Leo will actually happen at the autumn equinox. We've moved to that place of the Sphinx. A significant thing, because when precession happens, you would think that if you're talking about the gospel narrative, the virgin birth of Christ, which this is what Bollinger and Seiss actually talk about, that the actual zodiac represents the narrative of Christ, the whole gospel, the first coming, and the second coming. Then you would imagine that the sun had moved from Virgo all through the 12 constellations and end on Leo, which is actually metaphorically referred to as the conquering lion of Judah. In the second coming, Christ comes as the lion to rule the earth with the rod of iron and that sort of thing. Well, it doesn't work that way, because the sun doesn't start in Virgo and go this way. It goes from Leo and ends here. And so now we've moved from Virgo to Leo. So what is actually been said by the existence of the Sphinx is look forward to the future when this transition takes place, because this is a time marker and something incredibly significant is going to happen. This is the mother of Ahura Mazda, and the Persian version of Mother Mary and Jesus Christ, and she's riding the back of a lion, and the sun is superimposed behind them. Well, it was actually incorporated and had been incorporated on the Republic of Iran's flag for many, many years. In fact, it goes back almost 3,000 years. And this is Darius at worship. But what's interesting is this is also the time cycle. This is a different version of the Sphinx itself. This is a different version of actually pinpointing that time between when the sun moves in the autumn equinox from between the Virgin and moves into the Lion. Here's different versions of what was on the Persian flag. It was changed after the fall of the Shah of Iran in the 70s, and changed to almost like a pitchfork thing, which supposedly says Allah is great. But true Persians who really believe themselves to be separate from the Arabs, they like this a lot. They want to keep it. And you can see the version here where you don't actually see Her Majesty's mother standing here. You actually see the face of the Virgin. So it's kind of different. But the sun here is merged right behind him. It's significant because it's pointing out that zodiac transition point. The book of Enoch actually has a reference to the last point in time, that penultimate event that actually starts the ball rolling before everything happens. And he says, "And in those days the angels shall return and hurl themselves to the east upon the Persians and Medes," and that's Iran right now, "and they shall stir up the kings, so that a spirit of unrest shall come upon them, and they shall go up and tread under the foot of the land of his elect." And you'll notice here, when I was talking about Jerusalem actually originally being the place of the Jebusites, and Jebusite means threshing floor, threshing circle. He describes this, and Enoch wrote this book, supposedly historians say that it was written about 2 BC, so it's a pseudepigraphic work. But they say it'll be as a threshing floor to these people from Persia, and that they were actually caused to rise up against Israel by angelic beings. And then, of course, he says, in those days that Sheol, which just means pit or grave in Hebrew, will open its jaws and it will swallow them up. And that'll be the end of them. Consequently, Ezekiel, in Ezekiel 38 and 39, talks about almost exactly the same scenario. And he talked about it many hundreds of years before Enoch did. But here's a little modern headline about the fear that Israel has over the next conflict with Iran. And Mahmoud, let's see if I can get this right, Ahmadinejad, he is actually happy about the situation. He couldn't be more happy. If you watch a bunch of documentaries about him, he is mostly focused on the idea of resurrecting or bringing back the 12th Imam, what they call the Mahdi, which is basically an incarnation of the spirit of Muhammad, who is supposedly to bring Islam to the whole world. And this Imam will come out of this 12th Imam will come out of a well in Iran, supposedly. And the only way he will come up is if the whole world is in chaos. And so by attacking Israel, he will cause the world to be in chaos. If he doesn't attack Israel, if he is attacked, then it'll still happen for him. Either way, he wins.